can make sure you use either a UPS or PO box to make sure you are able to kind of get your mail if you are a home-based business. So there are several different ways that location can be helpful and essential. So you want to know, once again, that's why you got to be able to do those business assessments, because what is going to be best? Because you may not be able to have people come into your home. So working your business out of your home may not be the best route. So that means you need to identify a retail or location, knowing what the rent is, knowing what the terms and conditions, what's the neighborhood, is it zoned, and being able to do everything as it relates to your business. So location, location, location is essential. So let's get into the M's of ABCs of starting your business. And that's marketing and management of your business. So I told you earlier we were going to talk about some marketing techniques and strategies. So of course, once you have your name, I'm assuming you're going to trademark and own that name so no one else. So then you got to put together a branding strategy for your own company. And in order to do that, that's looking at your logo, your website, your social media, letterhead, mailing, all of those key things. Colors, you want to be consistent. This represents you. How you market, how you brand is all about you. So you want to be able to do that. Now, there are ways to help. I mean, or freelancers that can definitely help. So some people use sites like Fiverr and Upstart. There's some website resources like GoDaddy, Wix, WordPress, Square, that will help you do that as well. There's online retail resources like Shopify, Etsy, eBay. All of these you need to evaluate to say, what is the best for you? Because all of them, there is a cost, a price, a fee, something for. So is that worth it? And then once you've done all of that, now you got to put your digital marketing strategy together. How do you want to show up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn? But guess what? You want to make sure that's where your customer is. So if you're looking at young adults, 18, younger, 20-ish, guess what? They're not on Facebook that often. So Facebook is not where you're going to find them. Now, if you're doing TikTok, if you're doing Instagram or Insta stories and all of that, that's where you're going to find them. So you, one, got to know who your customers are. You got to, two, know what social media or digital marketing media strategies, where they are. Are they on Facebook? Are they on Twitter? Or then what are you offering? Are you kind of educating people? So you may need to be on YouTube, or you need to go Facebook Live like we are today. But how do you need to connect with your customer? And then you've got to be able to put it out there. So being able and being consistent, and then being able to make sure that when you're marketing your brand, that you just don't post, you're creating a following, because that is important. That's how you're going to generate revenue. The other thing is, you want to really make sure you understand who your customer is, that ideal target customer. And I know I've heard it all. Guess what? Everybody's my customer. Not really. Everybody's not your customer. So you really got to understand truly, who is your customer? How can you reach that particular customer? And how can you convince that customer to buy your goods and services? And then being able to making sure you have the right pricing strategy. I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I know that pricing strategy is the hardest. So you've got to really make sure that your price point is something that others will buy. And then you've got to create the buzz and the demand. That's why advertisement, promotion, marketing efforts. You've got to do some things to definitely, so people can check you out, so people can know and look your business up. So then people can even sample what you have to offer and then be able to purchase it. You got to have the value. Management. This is the operations. I call it the heartbeat of the business. How you manage. Remember, I told you got to do a self-assessment, because in management, you got to make decisions. You got to be able to follow through. You got to be able to meet deadlines. So you've got to be able to work with others. You got to be able to manage a team, whether that team is internally to your business or externally, whether that team is other hired professionals, such as your accountant, your attorney, your marketing person, your bookkeeper. But guess what? You got to be able to have good management and leadership strategies and structures to be able to do that. And then you got to have a system, to be able to say, what is going to be my day-to-day operations? What are going to be my hours of operations? What is my policies? And especially now in COVID, we've got to be able to say, am I making sure that everybody's safe? Is there a 6 feet distance? Is there a cleaning strategy? Do I have signs to make sure that everyone's going to wear a mask or is mandated to wear a mask? So that all comes with management, operations, how you're going to manage the business and how things are going to be executed, implemented, carried out. You got to do it. And in order to do it, but guess what? This is part of owning and operating a business. These are the steps and strategies and the tools. You can do it. You just got to put a plan together. So guess what? Putting the plan together. That's part of the ABCs of starting a business. That's my P, putting that plan together. You can't do it out of what they call the seat of your pants. You can't do it all willy-nilly. You can't do those things. You got to put a plan. I'm going to give you 2 ways to put a plan together. You can do it through what I call the traditional business plan. Here's the outline for it. It's like a term paper, but it does involve really understanding not only your products and service that you're doing, but your industry, how you're going to grow, your marketing and sales plans, your management, your operations, your financial plans, and then all of the documents that you need to support what you're planning to do and in this idea. The second one, which is my favorite, so I'm not a fan of the traditional business plan, but I wanted to make sure you know, is a business canvas. Typically, it's a 1-pager. It's like this. You have boxes. And then in that, it still addresses the exact same thing a business plan does, but guess what? Without all the fluff. So you get to have to bullet it. You got to be clear, concise, and detailed. And then you've got to be to the point. And being able to look at this for your business helps you know what the success and structure of that business is going to be. So make a plan and put it together. It's sort of like the Bible says, where there is no vision, the people will perish. Where there is no plan, your business will perish. So resources. So I've given you a lot of steps, strategies, and things in terms of what you need to do to start your business and being able to kind of look at that. But guess what? On a national base and a national level, there are resources, there are organizations that you didn't even know that are there to help you. On a national basis, the Small Business Administration works in partnerships and funds small business development centers. In North Carolina, they're called the Small Business Technology Development Centers, but across the country is a small business center near you, a small business development center near you. There are SCORE chapters. There are mentor organizations that will help you and work with you on your business, to help you put those plans together, to help you identify those sources and uses of funds. So they are always a resource near you or in your community where you are. Women's Business Center. So there's the National Association of Women's Business Center, and there are women's business centers throughout the country. Matter of fact, the SBA just provided or funded 20 more additional women's business centers in 2021. So there is a women's business center near you wherever you are across the country. If you are a veteran-owned business, please, there are veteran business outreach centers. They're there. So these organizations are funded in part by the Small Business Administration There's resources where there's the Minority Business Development Center that also are funding to really work with minority-based businesses. And then last but definitely not least is small business centers. Here in North Carolina, there is a small business center on all of your community colleges throughout North Carolina. It may be different in your state or region. However, there's either a small business center, a small business development center, a women's business center, or SCORE near you. And I want you to know, guess what? I ain't gonna tell you it's free, but I will tell you it's prepaid. And guess who's paid for it? You. You know why? Because if you're paying state, local, and federal taxes, that's who funds this. So why not start there? And then look at where you can then leverage resources and opportunities and how to really get with the right business consultant that can help you accomplish your goal. So the R in the ABCs of starting a business is resources. Tap into them. They're here for you. They are a wealth of information. They are talented people that can definitely walk you through this process. The S in the ABCs of starting a business are systems. You can't do anything without a system, a process, a manner and way that you're going to do it. And you've got to connect to those systems. So first and foremost, you need to have a banking system. Now, some of you may be doing business with Cash App or Venmo or any of those other systems. You need to have a banking system for your business. Your business needs to have a business banking account. Point and simple. I can't say it better, but I'm going to say it again. Your business needs to have a business banking account. You need to have a banking system. No matter whether it is your traditional brick and mortar banks, whether it's the fintech banks or financial institutions, or if it is credit unions that offer business bank accounts. But your business needs to have a business banking system. Guess why? How are people going to pay you? How will you receive this revenue that you're going to generate? How are, so you've got to have a method. Cash App is not a method. Venmo is not a method. You need to have a business method and a business system for your business. 2, accounting system. The day and age of doing it in the shoebox is over. We're no longer doing it in the shoebox. We're no longer carrying receipts and having receipts and waiting to the end of the year and then just hand it over to your bookkeeper or accounting. That is out. It's over. Don't do it. At minimum, you've got to be able to use Excel, Google Sheets in order to keep up with your accounting records on a monthly basis. Don't wait till the end of the year. I can't stress this enough. Can y'all see this is my area of expertise? Because I'm so passionate. I just want y'all to know. Don't do this. Don't put it in a shoebox. Then there's other systems. Whether you're using Zero accounting software, QuickBooks Online software, Wave accounting, Zoho Books, FreshBooks. But guess what? Use an accounting system. You need a system in order, because guess what? You need reports, you need information, you need data. You need to be able to know these things about your business. So you got to have a system. You got to be able to understand this for your business. And T, the last piece of my ABCs of starting a business is taxes. You got to have that system. You see that shoebox of receipts? You can't do that, because you've got to be able to know and have that positive record keeping and pay taxes. And you've got to know whether your area takes local, state, or federal taxes for your business. But typically, you want to make sure that if you're payroll, there's payroll taxes. If you for your business, you want to make sure that you're following the small business tax guidelines on a state level as well as a federal level. Now, let me just put a pin here because it came up this week. So this is hot off the press, that if you receive, so if you're an existing business, I know we're talking startup, but I want you to understand something, because we talked about funding. If you're a startup business and or if you're an existing business and you received, whether it was grant dollars or federal dollars from the SBA, specifically around Paycheck Protection Program, um, for your business, keep in mind that there is a tax on that. So that may have a negative or positive impact on your business. Also, understand this: just because you claim a business loss may not be the best long-term tax strategy for your business, specifically if you're looking for funding. So I want you to really think about your taxes and put a strategy to that. It's not just about, how can I get the most and outsource the government, right? Or the tax or the IRS man. Guess what? I need you to really think about the strategy and where you're trying to go for your business, because you may not need to take that business loss. So you may need to be able to show at least some profits each year, specifically if you're looking for funding. Also, when you're looking at income, you need to know what's the tax impact to my business. Grants, everybody always say, well, I want grants. That's free money. Not if it's taxed. So there is not a such thing as free money. There is a system, a process. So you want to make sure that you understand that. You also want to know what tax deductions you can take, right? So if you're operating out of a home, if you're operating out of an office, if you have office supplies, furniture, equipment, your software subscriptions, well, we're not doing a lot of travel, but if there was travel, meals, I had a call today about vehicle. So how can I write off the maintenance of my vehicle for my business? It depends. A lot of that may not be written off. So you want to make sure that you understand and you work with your professional about the tax deductions for your business. Because guess what? It's tax season. So now let me just recap. I have said a lot in terms of the ABCs of starting a business, and I just want to do what I call the startup steps review. So first and foremost, you got to have something that you're selling, right? You got to have that idea. You got to have a product or service. Otherwise, it's just a hobby. Second, you got to name it. It's got to have a business name. And once you have that business name, you got to have a structure to it, that certificate. Remember, we talked about that? And then you've got to be able to get a employer identification number. It's important to have that business bank account, the business accounting system, business insurance. You got to have a good marketing and branding strategy. And then the most important thing in the steps of starting a business is your business has to be able to generate revenue in order to pay its expenses. And hopefully you will have a net profit at the end. So now I'd love to be able to, here's my contact information. Once again, Monica said it so eloquently. Infinity Bridges is a consulting and training company. I focus on, of course, the finances of how to really grow, start, grow, and sustain a business. I've been really engulfed in all of the PPP, the funding for businesses, really helping business put a pivot strategy together to really understand how to sustain it, especially during a crisis. But I want you to understand that just because we're in a crisis or just because we're in a pandemic does not mean that there's no entrepreneurship opportunities. Remember, entrepreneurship is about solving a problem. I'm sure that you have a problem or a solution. Matter of fact, let me say it this way. I'm sure you have a solution to a problem that exists. The question is it something that people will pay for? So I would love for you to connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can always contact me and see if I can help you start and start and grow your business. And I want you to enjoy the expo. And so what I will do now is see if there's any questions and be able to answer those questions. Let's see. Let's see. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, get your weight up. All right. Any questions? Do we have any questions? All right. If there's no questions, I'll turn it back over to Monica.
Thank you so much, Latasha. That was so rich, full of information, and I must say you were so knowledgeable. Like, I think everybody's gonna have to go back and recap that. It was so full. Thank you so much. I'm gonna have to
You're welcome.
connect with you after
Please
this
do.
session.
Definitely, please
Mhm.
do. I look forward to it. And thank you, everybody. And thank you for joining me. And once again, I love to connect with you on social media. So you can go to Infinity Bridges and be able to connect with me. Let me know what your thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything that you're like, what did you say about this? Please repeat that for me. I'm glad to be able to do it for you.
Thank you so much. Okay, she was amazing. And so we are gonna roll right into our next guest, who is going to be Merrill Holloway. And I'm gonna read his bio, and just like the others, amazing. Um, Let me get started on his bio. So Merrill Holloway is a native North Carolinian born in Reidsville, North Carolina, currently residing in Raleigh. He is passionate and a dedicated advocate for economic empowerment and social justice within several North Carolina communities and business sectors. He received a formal education from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He is both the founder and executive director of North Carolina 100, a nonprofit focused on mapping and identifying opportunities for collaboration and change in Rockingham County. Also serving as organizational partner with World Forward NC program housed within the Foundation for Health Leadership and Innovation. As a champion of economic development in the Triangle, Merrill served as Director of Development for the Greater Durham Black Chamber of Commerce as an advocate worker in purchasing cooperatives. He serves as the chairman of the North Carolina Employee Ownership Center. Since 2011, Merrill has served on Durham Technical Community College's Business Administration Advisory Committee in several capacities. In 2018, he became a regional expansion partner for Community Purchasing Alliance in Washington, D.C. This spring, Merrill was named to the 2020 to 2022 cohort for the William C. Friday Fellowship for Human Relations, representing 19 North Carolina counties. He was also featured in October in the Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust newsletter discussing leadership and health equity. If that is not an amazing bio, I don't know what is. And I am honored to say that I am also a part of the William C. Friday Fellowship. So I am very happy to welcome Merrill Holloway.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I am so happy to be here. This is
And
awesome
we
to
are
be.
happy to have you on this platform today. And to have you, you're going to be talking to us about the business of nonprofits.
The business of
Correct?
nonprofit. Yeah, I'll do that. And in true Friday Fellowship fashion,
That's right. And North
I will.
Carolina at Chapel Hill as well.
That's right. Hill Pride. Hill
Yeah.
Pride. Got the
Yeah. I see your tie.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. I guess before I do have some slides to present, but I do want to thank Dr. Eric Kelly. I do want to thank all the folks that have been able to participate with the Black Business Expo. I love seeing these beautiful Black faces and folks talking about all different types of things and the intersection of business and equity. I've loved hearing a lot of the stuff that I've heard over these 3 days and just all of the different aspects of all of the African diaspora. So this is awesome. Just right up my alley. So you've already shared those things about me, so I don't have to talk about myself, and I'll share a little bit about my organization, NC100, and some of the hats that I wear, and then talk about nonprofits and some of my thoughts, and hopefully some of the stuff people will find interesting. Some of it'll be new to some people, some of it'll be old hat, but hopefully there's a couple spins on it, and people will find things interesting and new, or just something to think about. So we'll get going. And I actually have a friend of mine that I'm doing some work with that I'll bring in probably about 20 minutes in. So
Okay, that's going to be. Thank you so much. I'll let you have it from here, Mel.
okay, thank you so much. All right, again, guys, my name is Merrill Holloway, and I am the Executive Director of NC 100. That is the thing that I will talk probably the most about before I go into the business of nonprofits and share a couple things with you. I also wear a couple other hats that you heard Monica talk about. I have been in the nonprofit space for a little while. I spent a lot of time with self-help. If people are familiar with self-help, it is headquartered in Durham. The other work I do is also in nonprofit space. So Rural Forward is focused in health equity. The North Carolina Employee Ownership Center is focused also in Durham, and is also a nonprofit. So I'm going to pull up, let's see, these slides, see if I can do this right. I do want to say before I get too deep into talking about NC 100, that the story behind NC 100, it really is a personal one. I am from Rockingham County, so I don't know if people are familiar with where Rockingham County is, but it is a little small town where I grew up. It's called Rearsville, North Carolina, a small town in a pretty large county. Rockingham County is in the middle of North Carolina, but at the very top, right on the Virginia line. It's actually 92,000 people in that county. And Rockingham County, much like a bunch of other rural communities, it was kind of, the economy was based on textiles, advanced manufacturing, and tobacco. Not like unlike a bunch of other rural communities. And over time, textiles went away. NAFTA happened. Tobacco is not king anymore like it used to be. And that advanced manufacturing kind of changed a little bit, and the skills that are needed to be able to be successful in that have gone up. And sometimes those skills don't match with the schools are preparing our students for. And so over time, where I and other people who are Generation X, I'm 47 years old, were able to benefit from those times when their parents were working. Times are different now, and so folks don't have the opportunities that they had. And so the systems that need to be protecting folks, especially people who are from marginalized backgrounds, and a lot of times those folks look like a lot of folks that have been on some of our calls and what you've seen on the screen today. They need folks that do nonprofit work. And so that story and the needs that those people have, it's a very personal one. So I wanted to kind of take the resources that I had, resources that friends that of mine had that left these rural communities. I wanted to bring those resources back. I wanted to bring those stories back. I wanted to have some innovation that I brought back. And I wanted to see what could I do in partnership with folks in the community to kind of build a bigger and better Rockingham County. And in that turn, build a bigger and better North Carolina. But I wanted it to be directed by the people and not directed by me. So let me go into my slides. Mark, if you can throw up these slides, and I'll talk a little bit more about NC 100 and then go into my thoughts. All right, so the way I like to talk about nonprofits and the way I like to talk about especially mine is methodology and objectives. I think one of the things that people do when they talk about the work that they do, you want to kind of break it down into what I call three things. The methodology is, how you go about the work. How do you do it? How you think about the work? Objectives are your goals and what you want to get done with the work. And then the last thing that you want to do when you do community focused work are what are your boundaries? All right. Let's see if I can get my slides to work here. The objectives for NC 100, really two things. And I talk to folks about this. I think a lot of times when you have an organization that is doing really good work, you want to be very clear about what you're doing. And we've been very clear about what we're trying to do in Rockingham County, and hopefully it'll be a model that we can take to other places. We want the student population, and we are working with middle school children right now. We want them to be able to explore great career options before the ninth grade. And that will lend towards 100% of middle school children that get to ninth grade having really great career options as they graduate from high school. And sometimes that means I'm going to go to college. Sometimes that means I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes that means I'm going to be I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go to community college. Sometimes that means I'm going to go to the military. Sometimes that means I'm going to take an apprentice program and then maybe think about going to a 4-year university. Sometimes that means I'm going to take a couple of years off and figure out what I want to do. But we really have tried to break it down into like these two main tracks of you either going to work for somebody or you're going to have somebody work for you. But if we have an approach in our nonprofit work that people are going to have this approach that there are different doors that you walk through instead of these floors you need to elevate to, then you're going to have more people be in a place where they don't feel left out. I think educators do a really good job and they do the best that they can. But obviously, if you are a teacher, you went to college, right? So sometimes we put a lot of emphasis on college, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we think there are a lot of ways you can be successful, whether you do that or not, directly out of high school. But that's one objective. We try to make that really simple for our students. There are plenty of different ways to be successful, just the way you want to define it. But you always want to move in excellence, right? The other thing that we like to focus on is to talk about our community having all of the access to their resources that support and protect their wealth. So a lot of the conversations that you've heard during the Black Business Expo this week have been talking about building wealth, protecting your assets. You heard Latasha talk a little bit in the last session about all the things you need to be thinking about if you're going to be an entrepreneur, all the smart things, your tax code, your licensing, all the things you need to protect your business. All the things that we are all trying to do are bring that information to folks so they can protect their wealth and create wealth. And typically people who have wealth and are able to protect it, they're typically healthy. So that's really important to us. So you see here at the bottom that we really stress this idea of work, however that comes to you, wealth, and well-being. The way that we look at our work is that we are asset-based. So you go into a community and we look at, building upon the assets that are already there. You don't look at the deficits. So we look really hard to say, where are the strengths? Try to build upon those strengths, build community leaders from non-traditional spaces, ask them, what's the best way to move ahead? We look to see that we look to be, movers of process and not content, help people navigate through philanthropy. I'll talk a little bit more about what that means and focus on strategic relationships. The way that we like to move in our social enterprise work is that we are a witness for folks. We try to be. We convene if we're asked to convene. We don't make any assumptions. Coach if we're asked to coach. Facilitate if we're asked to facilitate. Connect if we can. Document if we can. And consensus builder and bring those connections if we can. We don't do anything unless we're asked. We like to be moved and we don't like to direct. Rural Forward is an organization I talked a little bit about, and the way that connects is that we operate in what's called Healthy Places, North Carolina. And if you can't really see it here, but in Rockingham County, where I'm from, is what the KB Reynolds Charitable Trust has designated as a Healthy Places North Carolina county. And if you see these other counties here, these are all been designated as counties that need extra support in building health equity goals. So you see Halifax, Nash, Edgecombe, Beaufort. You see Wake is where we're centered from. Actually living here in Wake. We work in Robeson, Bladen, Columbus, McDowell, Burke. All of these counties are places that we operate in. We do some work in other places, but you see we concentrate in these rural communities, trying to help people with facilitation, trying to help folks with that, all the things I talked about a little bit before, being a convener, trying to be a witness, trying to build consensus and all those things. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. NC100, man, I want to make sure that we plug it so you guys can follow us. We are trying to build our platform. That's another thing I think businesses, and we are business, nonprofits are businesses. I'll talk a little bit more about that. We are not charities. We are actually businesses. So we are trying to make sure that we have people that follow us. We have people that know what we're doing, and we want to connect. So on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we are on, what else is there? What am I missing? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. That's the other one. So again, like I said before, nonprofits are businesses. We have a marketing issue. I think by the business, I really love that Eric titled this session "The Business of Nonprofits." Nonprofits are businesses. I think what we have done by having a negative term in front of the title, sometimes it devalues or gets people confused on actually what the process is. We are businesses. It is a incorporation status with tax code. Under state law, you can file to be a nonprofit. So a lot of folks file and they have an idea and they want to create a nonprofit and they go through the Secretary of State here in North Carolina. You can file to be a nonprofit under the state of North Carolina. You can. It's not that hard. If you got $60 and a couple minutes to fill out a form, you can be a nonprofit, and that is a state law incorporation status. Not very hard to do. It allows you to start doing the community work, and you can feel really good that you have made that first step. The tax exempt status refers to the federal income tax exempt, and that allows you to be eligible for different funding under the IRS. So if you have not done the second part, then you will not be eligible for the funding that you need from certain organizations if you want to get major gifts. So a lot of folks do the first step because it's relatively easy. There aren't a lot of barriers, and it allows you to be a nonprofit. But to have the tax exempt part, you've got to do that second piece and get the tax exempt part. Just because you are helping people doesn't mean you can make money, that you can't make money. Nonprofit organizations, we are social enterprises. We are businesses that are committed to doing work to help the community, but we aren't, and we are allowed to have greater income than the expenses that we have. So you can make a profit, you can make money because you need to be sustainable to continue to do the work, but you aren't making money that will help private individuals. So much like a credit union is making money to support and help the community earn funds and not individual board members. Nonprofits are making money to support the work that you're doing. So you have to sustain the operation. So sometimes it gets kind of twisted where you start a nonprofit and people don't really understand if a church or a group that's doing community work, which is really great direct service work, and they don't understand why people are asking for money. It seems like you're begging. You're not begging. You are trying to make money to sustain really great work. And the difference is, and it's just basically tax code, you are making the money to sustain the work to keep it going. So I do think that we have to think a little bit more about how we term and what we call these organizations. They really are social enterprises. Another difference is, right, nonprofits aren't going to pay or will pay no dividends. So that's another core difference. It really is just a structure difference in the business. So try to think about that when you are talking about the differences between a business that is a for-profit LLC or an S corp, or some type of other structured business that is strictly meant to benefit stockholders and shareholders and private individuals, and a organization that is meant to serve the community. So these are businesses, social enterprises. Maybe we need to start a movement one day to figure out a way to get a different name for it. Why do nonprofits fail? Why do social enterprises sometimes fail? Here's a few reasons that I'd opine, and I would love to, when we get done with this, have a couple people throw out a couple ideas or shoot a couple questions at me. I'd love to debate this a little bit. The reason that some nonprofits fail, some social enterprises can fail, is limited with leadership with limited financial experience. That's going to kill you. If you have board members who are disengaged, or you don't really have a really full functional board, a lot of times you have, really one or two spirited folks that are doing all the work, and you don't have a board that's trying to help you raise money, helping you think about your strategic vision, or you don't have a strategic vision at all. You don't do any long-term planning. You're only thinking about how you're going to get things done for that one particular year. You're not looking 3-4 years ahead. Or there's a lack of diversification in your revenue streams. That can be over reliance on a grant. You could have one funder that really supports you in 2021 because you have found that thing that's the niche thing that everybody's into in 2021. But what happens in 2023 when that niche thing isn't the thing anymore and you haven't thought about diversifying your income? It's almost like a business. If you are leaning on one particular product and then that product isn't selling anymore, then what do you have, right? Here's an example. A lot of organizations, in particular nonprofits, have these really interesting revenue mixes, and not all of them have multiple mixes. But you really need to think about your social enterprise in these different ways of having different types of income. There are fees for goods and services. A lot of nonprofits, and there I go again, calling them nonprofits, but nonprofits and social enterprises don't think enough about having a line item for goods and services. There are things that you can find value for in the community that people can pay you to do. You can contract out to. One of the things the NC 100 is really focused on is trying to talk to institutions about equitable distribution of their resources. Of course, a lot of social enterprises and nonprofits, and I'm so happy to be able to be in partnership with the organization that we'll bring up in a couple minutes. My friend Jay, and he'll talk a little bit about the work that he does. Who can do work where he's getting fees for goods and services. There are individual donations and major gifts, right? So people just really believe in you and they support you and they go to your PayPal, they go to your Cash App and they give you money. You go to corporate contributions. You look at these foundations that that just that will go to IBM and say, "Hey, IBM, we're doing this really cool thing. Will you give us $10,000?" And they are able to sustain themselves that way. That's a revenue stream. Community Reinvestment Act funds. I don't think a lot of people think about that. If you are running a social enterprise, you're running a nonprofit, there are a lot of financial institutions that have community reinvestment. Oh, Jay, thank you. Appreciate that. We are on TikTok. We are not very good on TikTok. We probably have maybe 9 to 10 followers. So if somebody's good on TikTok, tell us how to get that done. Community Reinvestment Act funds, guys. There are financial institutions have funds that they can give to organizations that are doing great work in the community that you can go ask. Go to your BB&T, go to your Wachovia. I'm sorry, Wachovia. You can tell I'm 47. Go to your financial institutions and figure out who those folks are. That's exactly right. And ask for that information. Foundation grants, you can go to your Z Smith Reynolds. We're very lucky to be able to have those foundation grants. Government grants and contracts, a lot of organizations do that and they get money that way. Interest from investments, some people take some funds and they pull those and they make investments and make money that way. People get loans. I don't know if people know, if you go to sba.gov, there is an emergency impact disaster loan fund for folks that have been impacted by COVID. You can get a very favorable loan if you're a nonprofit or social enterprise has been impacted by COVID. That is a very favorable loan. If you've been impacted, I think it's a loan percentage. I think it's 2.75. There are organizations that have been able to get $15,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and only have to pay, it's a 30-year note at 2%, 2.5%, and that's $100 payment, $200 payment to get you through. Some organizations are trade organizations that are nonprofits and they have membership dues and fees. So think about having multiple streams of revenue. What makes social enterprise hang around a little bit longer? Collaboration with other community organizations help you hang around a little bit longer. This idea that you're doing this by yourself is false. If you have a great vision statement, that's really helpful. If you have a great mission statement that allows people to really understand what you're trying to do. If you're able to tell people that some examples of having these well-crafted mission and vision statements are, we exist to do X. We believe in this. We value this. This is the problem or problems we're working to address. What will be accomplished by reaching the goals? Blah, blah, blah. What is the overall issue or societal problem that you're trying to address? You want to have these really large visions that you can see yourself trying to solve, that people can rally behind. So that makes you hang around and people can understand what you're trying to do. I want to show you a couple of other things that people think about when they're getting into this nonprofit space or this social enterprise space. this is not charity. And I wrote, this ain't charity, it's justice. That's what this work really is. There are really these three different types of place where power is held, guys. And if I were to ask you which one of these pieces is the most powerful, is it institutional? Are there people in groups, or is it your individual power that's the most powerful group in this Venn diagram? I don't know if there's a right answer. They all have like their key components that have some power, but without your individual ability to communicate your concepts effectively, you can't form groups that have this collaborative to put people in power in these institutions. And then the institutions can't impact and run these policies and system changes. So nonprofits do a really good job of trying to navigate through all three of these and group people together and try to have people build their own agency. So wanted to just kind of get that out there. The other thing that helps nonprofits kind of move together a little bit forward is this idea. I don't know if I can back up. Oh, I can't back up. I don't know if I can. I think I went back. There we go. Another thing that helps people move forward, I only have a couple minutes, so I want to bring in Jay, is this bold. I had a person tell me a long time ago that doing this type of work, the work that people do in the nonprofit space, is like pushing a boulder up a really steep hill. You're pushing it up a few millimeters, waiting for the next person to help you push it up a few more millimeters. If you take on the idea that you're the only person that can move that boulder, you're going to tire yourself out and you're going to be hurt, and you're going to hurt other people. The people that have a very healthy attitude about nonprofit work, social enterprise work, they're able to stay around, they're able to stay healthy, they're able to help people, and they're able to understand that you're trying to have some impact over a range of outcomes. If you just like to help people because it makes you feel good, then you should probably just be a volunteer somewhere. You don't need to run the social enterprise, because this type of work really takes patience, it takes trust, it takes strategic vision. Listening with care in communities makes a lot of sense. You can't have individual vision. You can't have a bunch of hubris. You have to be able to distill key points, do reflective listening, and you have to understand positions versus interests. And what do I mean by that? Most people will tell you their position when you talk to them. You can get that very easy. If we're in a room talking in a group of folks, let's say we're all in a room right now, we're sitting in a circle, and somebody all of a sudden got up and shut the door, and you don't ask any questions, and you make some assumption. You may think they're upset. You don't know exactly what's going on unless you ask them. They could be cold, they could be frightened, it could be too loud outside. That's the interest. The position is they got up and shut the door. Their interests are, you don't really know until you ask. So you have to kind of understand the difference between positions and interests. Behavior, stances, what is said, hurt, and felt above the surface, that's the headline. The underlying needs and motivations below the surface are the real important things that good, lasting, sustainable nonprofits do really well. I'm going to skip ahead, and I'm going to just say one more thing before I bring. I think the other thing that nonprofits do is social enterprises have really good partnerships. I want to bring my guy Jay up to talk a little bit about the work that he does and what it makes, and one of the partnerships I'm very, very proud of. But I want to leave you before going to Jay. Community-focused organizations aren't around because needs are being met. If the private sector was doing all the things that needed to be done to support people and systems, then we wouldn't be around. So the things that I think about, and folks are watching us now live and watching this on replay, the things you need to be thinking about when you're doing the work that you're doing is what happens if you do nothing and what happens if you get it right. So that means taking your time. That means thinking through things. That means this boulder theory I'm talking about. That means distilling between positions and interests. And it means taking the time to have your work be directed by the people and not by your own vision. So, Mark, can you bring up Jay? I'd love to have Jay talk a little bit about the work that he's doing with Love's Apparel and some partnership work we're doing with NC100 and some of his thoughts on nonprofit work. Hey, Jay.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right, brother.
You know, it's always weird to be on this side of StreamYard. I'm like, Where's my stuff? Where's my stuff?
Hey, Mark, you can pull down the screen. I'm done with showing people stuff.
Okay.
All right. So what your thoughts, man? I just wanted to say I'm really appreciative. I want folks to know that I've been working with this man. You know, we've had a chance to know each other for, you know, probably almost a year and a half, probably maybe longer than that. But I would just love to get your thoughts on some of the stuff that I said and just share with the people a little bit about Love is a Parable. And if there's anything that you agree or disagree, or what's your thoughts on the business of nonprofits or social enterprise?
What I was about to say, that's what I like more than anything is the fact that you call it a social enterprise. And a lot of people are under the impression that because we have a nonprofit, that means we don't need money and we don't need resources and we're doing a lot of things for free. Now, you know, don't get me wrong. When I started Love is a Parable, I thought the same thing. I thought we couldn't charge for certain things. There were a lot of things that I was just ignorant of. And I tell you, like, one of the things that I did like is just find you a safe space and people that you can talk to where you can admit your ignorances. Don't go around acting as if you know. If you don't know, you don't know. Ask questions and seek out those who really can give you what you need. And if somebody can't give you what you need, don't compromise the integrity of yourself or your organization. Our nonprofit is Love is a Parable. We have this weird vision that we can see a world living in unity through love. And we have a methodology and approach, which is reflective thinking, along with the sacred box theory, where we help people identify their values and show them how their values help them to make key decisions, how they see life, how they see others, but also the decisions that they make. And so we help them through their values remove restrictive thinking, restrictive ideologies, and assumptive thinking. So the hope is once we remove all the barriers, individuals can become the best of them and see the best in others. And that's how we achieve unity. We also specialize in having tough conversations. We're not the ones that are afraid to have those difficult conversations if it's going to forge togetherness. What I liked about what Meryl said is that we have to debunk the solo success theory, because a lot of us can be successful together. We're going into our 4th year, and last year was our best year. Last year was our best year, and we have a social media reach of over 300,000, and we are in 86 countries because of the stuff that we've been doing, and we are doing it together. I would add to that, know the difference between network and collaboration. Network is nothing more than you curating what resources you can actually use. Collaboration is when you engage. We have to stop using network as engagement because you haven't had a chance to develop true relationships yet.
Right.
Make sure you develop those relationships. Trust your instinct. Don't be too eager to do anything. Make sure you have a clear vision and a mission. All of the things that you were saying, Meryl, I agree with 1,000%. We just got to make sure that we're getting with the right people. Trust your gut, trust your instinct. If it is telling you something is not right, 9 times out of 10, something is not right. And what can end up happening is you put your business in jeopardy because you didn't trust your instinct. The other thing is leverage your resources. We are 100% volunteer. I'm 100% volunteer. And that's because we have greater things that we're doing. You can speak to your people and let them know exactly what you're trying to do. And a lot of people will buy into your vision, and they will leverage the resources you need by giving you human capital.
Yeah.
You need human capital to do a lot of these things. My strong suit is organizational management. So I do have a unique skill where I can see the big picture, and I have set up Love is a Parable. If every leadership member and advisory committee member fall, I can still do most of the business by the push of a button. We have to think like that because life happens, things happen, but we want to make sure that we are strategic. But you have people that you are connected to right now waiting on you to tell them what to do. Tell them how you need them to work. Be as specific as you can be, in that way that you can commit. In addition to having a board, I will take it a step further and say, get you some type of committees that can do stuff. If you don't have volunteers, we have an advisory committee, which is nothing more than a whole pool of subject matter experts. Get you an NDA. When you have ideas, you have a big think tank.
Hey, Jay, tell them, for the folks who don't know what the NDA is, tell them what the NDA is.
Disclosure agreement.
Yep.
In year 1 and 2, I had individuals that basically took our ideas and tried to do it their own way. Well, now, anytime I meet, Mary will tell you, anytime I meet with anybody, I send them an NDA. It's no offense. Just look at it as business. Meaning, hey, I'm gonna tell you some sensitive information. I want to make sure that it's secured, and I want to legally make sure that it is secured. Yep. You send an NDA. If they have a problem with signing the NDA, don't do business with them. Because everything that you have, you got to look at yourself as a multi-million-dollar company. And any information that you give, that's multi-million-dollar money that you're giving away right there, and you need it for your organization. So once I started signing NDAs, not only did my business start to thrive, but I also, it vets people themselves. Some people say, well, I don't need to do all that. You can trust me. Well, if I can trust you, sign an NDA.
Right.
And even when y'all separate, even when people separate for whatever reason, sometimes we don't separate from bad reasons. But if somebody tells any information, we still have NDAs on file. And I
was gonna say, I think that's a good point. I mean, I think that's a good point and I think I've heard that on a couple people this week talking a little bit about just, I think sometimes and I don't want to map this to people that look like us, but sometimes we do a lot of handshake deals. Sometimes we are informal because we are just informal. And we don't want to go through all those things because it's like, oh, we don't have to do that. And then we fall out and then people's feelings are hurt. But the reason that you have things and you put pen to paper is so people don't have these misunderstandings. Or when you do have the misunderstanding, you can go back to the thing that was written and then you don't have to worry about it. And it keeps people accountable. So again, I just want to stress, because I've been saying this, for the last, I've been thinking about this for the last year and a half about, just the name nonprofits gets things twisted. And sometimes people have these really great ideas for these community things that I want to help the community. I want to do this direct service. I'm a former nonprofit. And it's like, that's fine, but realize these are businesses. And so sometimes if you have a really great idea and you want to do a great community project, then maybe you need to find an established nonprofit that has all this stuff together and have them be your fiscal sponsor. But go ahead.
No, I think I agree wholeheartedly, but I will say that if you look at these as just business practices, that's going to be part of the problem. You have to look at these as life management practices.
True.
You should have a personal life statement. You should know what you are purposed to do each and every day. If you don't have a mission and a vision statement for your life, for your family, I suggest you get one, because how can you run a business if you can't run your day-to-day life? And I think that that's where a lot of people miss the mark, because we're looking at them as two separate entities. No, this is your life work. And we got to set up things in place. And Mara, I just wanted to show them a quick thing, if that's okay.
Sure. Okay.
This is what we call, let me see. It won't let me bring it up. Hey, can I bring this up real quick, please? How much time we have, Meryl?
There's one more thing I need to share in the last, you got about 5 more minutes, and then I'm gonna share something and then we'll close out. You got 5 minutes.
I would like to share this on the screen, please.
Do I need to pull mine down, Mark, and then Jay can share his? Let me take mine down. Hold on a second.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm stop mine, and then when you share yours, maybe Mark can pull yours up.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to show them is actually, we have a mission and a vision for our organization, but we literally, here you go. We call it the Friendship Network. We have our mission and our vision in here, but these are other organizations that are helping us to achieve our mission and our vision. And here's the thing, we don't ask these organizations to change their name. We don't ask them to just come up under Love is a Parable. No, we legitimately say, hey, this is a partnership between Love is a Parable and Lenora Pours. This is a partnership between Love is a Parable and Love is a Gift. This is how we get things done. And when we talk to them and say, hey, we're all trying to achieve the same thing. Meryl and I, along with Adrian, did a similar thing for NC 100. We just partnered with one another and said, hey, this is what's happening. And I'm better with visuals. So I'll say, hey, let me show you a picture of what I mean. And everyone has a go-to. And Meryl is using that same picture for other partnerships. When you have a relationship and an agreement, it's easier for you all to achieve, and we all can get pieces of the pie without going hungry. So partnerships and collaboration is very important, not just networking.
Agreed. Well, I appreciate that, Jay. Well, I'm gonna show something real quick. I appreciate you, and then I'm gonna close us out. Thank you, sir. Is there anything else you want to show? You want to share before you go?
No, I definitely just want to say I appreciate you for all the things that you're doing, and thank you for being a person of your word, and thank you for being a mentor to me, because we have been succeeding since our partnership. So that's what it's about: win, win, win.
Yeah, no, and I think that's how we're successful. And again, like, I really believe in that theory. It's like we're pushing this boulder together. Few millimeters, you push, I push. We're we're gonna get it up the hill together, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mark, I'm gonna show my slides and finish out. If I can hit that button again. Let's see if I can do this one more time. All right, I just want to share one more thing. So another hat that I wear. So I told you guys about NC 100. I told you guys a little bit about Rural Fort. The other hat that I want to tell you guys about, and this is part of the nonprofit work as well, is I am the board chair for an organization called the North Carolina Employee Ownership Center. And this is very important work that I really want folks to listen to and understand. Over the next 20 years, retiring business owners will be selling or bequeathing over $10 trillion worth of assets. This is across the country. This is going to be over 2.3 million companies employing 1 in 6 workers nationwide, or close to 25 million people. And this is not just Black businesses. This is businesses all over the country. One of the things that the North Carolina Employee Ownership Center is trying to do within the state of North Carolina is build wealth for the entire state. But there are some concerns that we have about how this information is getting disseminated in rural communities and for business owners of color. And so we want to make sure that folks hear about this, and I could not let this opportunity being in front of folks today go by without making sure that folks hear about this. And I want folks to get in touch with me if they want to know more, or just go to the website. And I will definitely would love to share the website later. I guess I didn't prepare myself to put the website on here, but people can get in touch with me. 6 out of 10 business owners plan to sell their businesses in the next decade. But the problem is only 20% of businesses that are listed ever really sell. 1/3 of business owners over 50 are having a hard time finding a buyer. And only 15% of businesses get passed down to second generation. And that's overall numbers. If you cut that number down to businesses of color, that number gets cut down to about 3%. There just aren't a lot of second generation business owners of color. It just doesn't happen. And there's a lot of historical reasons for that. The North Carolina Employee Ownership Center was just been formed. We just hired an executive director 2 months ago. Very happy to say that we hired one. She's unbelievable. But we are based in Durham, and we are really focused on legacy business owners that are getting ready to transition out of their businesses, to think about transitioning their businesses to their employees. We definitely want to make sure that our Black-owned businesses stay in the communities. There definitely are definitely Black-owned businesses that do not end in hands of other Black people. There are businesses right now that have been traditionally owned by Black folks that aren't owned by Black folks anymore, but the folks that operate the business or work at the business are Black, and people don't know the difference. And in a city like Durham that has this rich history of Black ownership, home ownership, business ownership, it's a really interesting mix. It's a really interesting dynamic. And I think people would be very surprised about the amount of money that the city of Durham, and actually the city of Raleigh, with the municipality, the city of Durham, the county of Durham, how much money is actually being spent with Black businesses of color, and the actual worth of businesses that are owned by people of color versus our white counterparts. But we have got to be thinking strategically about the transitioning out of businesses. A lot of folks use insurance to transition out, which is fine. But what we want to try to do is build places where the employees that are there now can benefit from the ownership. One way to do that are employee stock option programs. And the cool thing about employee ownership, if you transition the ownership of the company to the employees that already work there, now obviously you need to have a decent sized company, so anywhere from 10 to 25 employees, is it creates this really awesome Venn diagram. The owner gets liquidity because they get to exit the business. The worker gets job security and ability to gain wealth. So not only are you earning a paycheck, but you're also getting some type of passive income. And then the communities need to keep the businesses open, so the businesses don't leave and go somewhere else. And those businesses that may or may not be able to be passed down to individuals of color, if there's a workforce that is primarily made of color, then you're getting some type of wealth to go into communities. So I just want to stress that is a very important thing that is going on right now. We want people to get involved. I'm very happy to say the speaker that spoke right before me serves on the board with me, Latasha Best-Gaddy. We are very excited about the work, and we are really encouraging folks that want to learn more about this. You get in touch with either one of us. I just wanted to make sure that I got that in before I finished, and I wanted to leave some time. I maybe left too much time. But this is how folks can get in touch with me. At NC100, www.nc-100.org. My email is merrill@nc-100.org. And I am on Twitter at MBNC100, and would definitely want to leave some time for some questions. I definitely can go over other things, but I'm going to take this down. I don't know, Monica, if you have any questions for me, wanted to leave time for questions and anything that somebody wanted to cover, or if there's anything else that I can go back over in more detail, happy to do so. Or if there's questions that people have for Jay. I think, okay. But let me say one more time. Oh, hi, Marcus.
Hi.
Anything you want to share? I mean, I can kind
of can finish your thought. I think you were saying something.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the big thing that I could highlight, if somebody's just catching this at the end, is like I just can't stress enough that like nonprofits really are social enterprises and are businesses, and I can't stress enough the need for folks to be thinking about it that way. That sometimes there is a laissez-faire that kind of happens with that. People don't think about the compliance that happens when you have to go for a bunch of grants, all the things, the tax code, the partnerships, the different type of revenue streams, there's just so many things to a nonprofit that creates that has the same amount of intricacies that a normal for-profit business has, that folks really need to be thinking about before they get into this space. And it's not to be played with. So I just want folks to be thinking about that. And there's no reason for people to spend their personal finances to build these businesses. There's no reason for people to be ashamed to ask for income. There's no reason for people to want to leave their job where they're working for somebody to start a nonprofit business and get money for themselves and ask for a salary for themselves. These are legitimate ways to help the community, but you also have to be able to carve out some income for yourself to do the work. This is valuable work for the community, and it is not to benefit you personally, but you have to eat, right? And the work has to get done. So I just want folks to know that.
And I have a thought that you mentioned a certain number. I'm not going to try to rattle off those stats, but a number of businesses and nonprofits that will close over the next several years. Will you talk more in depth about that? And forgive me if I missed it. It was a lot to take in when you were talking about it, but why is that the case?
Oh, why don't the businesses sell?
Why are they, you said that they were projected to be a lot of businesses that are going to close and shut down.
Yeah, well, a lot of for nonprofits in particular, they shut down because of compliance. So there is a 3-year window for social enterprises to shut down. There's an issue with the board, so the board is non-compliant. There's people lose energy. They don't feel like dealing with all the stuff they're supposed to deal with. You have to file your 990. There's a 990 form for most social enterprises that have to be filed, and if you don't do that for 3 years, you automatically get shut down. And that happens all the time. I can't tell you how many folks I have run into that had the nonprofit status from the state. They took all the time to do the IRS tax exemption. They didn't do their simple postcard. And basically, Monica, if your organization does not, if your organization has less than $50,000 of revenue, you literally have to fill out a postcard that costs you $30, and you just send it in. It takes no time to do the taxes for something like that, because they basically, if you have that little bit of revenue, the IRS doesn't care because you're not paying taxes anyway. And so you literally just have to spend $30 and hit a button. But people don't do it because they just don't do it, and they lose the status, and you have to start all over again and reapply. So that's the nonprofit piece. The reason that the businesses don't sell is there's not a person to sell it to. They don't have any kids that want to take the business, or they just can't, they haven't taken the time to get a proper evaluation of the business. So the business just goes away and the community loses the business.
Okay, and that may speak to the question Ms. McCoy just asked, to expand on why businesses are not passed down generationally. If you could speak to that.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I mean, I think there's a couple of I think it's like what I said, but I think the big thing is in rural, I can speak more to what happens in rural communities. So have you ever heard of the concept of brain drain?
No, I haven't.
So brain drain is a
Enlighten me.
concept. So brain drain, you got you being from a rural community, right? What we're told when, especially for, folks who are Generation X and younger and older millennials, we didn't have access to be able to go and have the opportunities that maybe our parents didn't have the opportunities that we had, and then so on and so forth. So the thing is, like, well, if you can get the opportunity, you need to get out of here,
Yeah.
get out of here, and then leave. And then you go to Chapel Hill, or you go to New York, or go to DC, and there's nothing interesting about coming back to little old Windsor, wherever you're from. And so you're not coming back. So mom and dad have a shoe store. There is a awesome little photography store that had been around in Reedsville for a very long time. And he was able to send his kids away to college. They all went to like different schools across the country. And when I remember his name, Mr. Nunley, very vividly. And when he passed away, very successful photography shop, he passed away, that store sat dormant for 20 years. And dust, cobwebs, who knows what's in that thing. They eventually had to rip it up because like the kids were like, we don't want that. And so brain drain is a big deal. So like the kids aren't coming back. And and it's old, and there's no innovative way. Maybe nobody's kind of thought about something different to kind of make that go to like a digital photography instead of that old school wind up the camera. So I think that's the other thing too. And then if there's nobody who is taking care to make that work innovative, then that company just dies. But if you were to have, if somebody who's running a company who's like 60 right now were to start an employee trust and come to us at the North Carolina Employee Ownership Center, and we could say, hey, the 3 people that you have working right here now, let's set up a cooperative or employee trust, and then you can sell your company to your employees. Those employees aren't going anywhere, and now you've created this space where they know the books, open book management, they're more invested, and then when they pass away or they decide to transition, they get their money, they understand that they get the full value of the business, they feel really good, the community gets to keep this really valuable resource, and these people have something that's wealth building, and then they can pass it on to their families.
Okay, so I didn't know the term, but I know the story coming from
Yep.
rural Eastern North Carolina very well. And so, and I think
Ranger.
that probably an example of that as well. And I hope Ms. McCoy that answers that question. And so, Meryl, I guess before we go, if you have any final thoughts, or do you think you summed up pretty well the business of nonprofits for everybody this evening?
I think so. I think people got that. I mean, I hope so. I'm trying to think of something else that I wanted to impress upon folks. Um, I think that's the main thing. I mean, I think the revenue mix too. I think that's one thing I want to also leave people with. Like, there are so many different ways to have income streams. I think a lot of times people just kind of get focused, on I got to get these grants, and that's the only way I can get money, and I'll
Yeah,
focus on these grants. But you get leveraged by the grants, and then I actually know folks that stay away from grants because they feel that if I do go for grants, then I'm going to be beholden to the grant maker.
yeah,
And that happens sometimes. So the grant person, so you go get a foundation grant from the local foundation. And also, I think somebody's asked me to put, I'm saying get distracted by the private chat. But the local foundation that gives you the grant, sometimes that is very true. They do want you to do things in the community the way that they
they
would.
want you to do it. Yeah,
And that does happen because I have been part of organizations that go into a community, and without asking anybody in the community, they say, hey, you people need this, this, and this. And then they're surprised when the community is like, well, we didn't ask for this and we don't want any of this because you didn't ask for it. So I think that definitely is a thing that you have to watch out for. And if you're getting a grant and and that's your only revenue, then yeah, you're in trouble because you haven't figured out a way to diversify, your funds. So it is just as important it is to be able to have a really strong grant revenue cycle. It also is important to have a local base of donors that support you, and not only will they show up for you for meetings and be able to come to events that you have, but they also need to be able to, show you love. Whether it's $10, it's $5. If you have 1,000 people giving you $5, that's just as powerful as one person giving you 5,000.
that's good. I think that's a great thought to end on. Will you share your contact information with us one more time, and then we're gonna go on to our next guest.
I think the best thing for people to be able to do to get in contact with me is just go to www.nc-100.org, and there is a contact us at the bottom, and you can join our listserv. I can also be found on Twitter if people are on the Twitter machine at MBNC100, if folks are on the Twitter machine. And if folks want to email me, it is just my first name, Merald, Merald, at nc-100.org.
Thank you, Meryl Holloway. You have a good
Thank you.
evening.
You too.
Black business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep, I am Black business. I am Black business. Are you Black business? I am Black business. Do you support Black businesses? I support Black business because I am Black business. Black Business Expo, one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black America in North Carolina. Sign up today at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-380-9090. I am Black business. I am Black business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep, I.
Hi, welcome back to the Black Business Expo Network. We just heard from Merrill Holloway of North Carolina 100, and next we will hear from Sandra Wall Williams. And Sandra is a business innovator, thought leader, and entrepreneur, a corporate board member, an education board member, a C-level executive, a leadership mentor. Coach Williams is an adjunct research professor in the Department of Educational Leadership, Policy, and Human Development at North Carolina State University. And so I'm going to welcome Sandra Wall Williams to the business platform, in which she will go more into what she does and who she is.
Hello, thank you, Monica. How are you today? Oh, great. You went on mute. We can't hear you.
Was I muted?
Yes.
So I'm gonna, I will go back into that then. I gave a small outline of a little bit about what you do, and I was gonna ask you to go into detail. So I'll read what I have.
Okay,
I do apologize.
Okay.
And so this is Miss Sandra Wall Williams, who is a business innovator, a thought leader, and entrepreneur. She's a corporate board member as well as an education board member, a C-level education executive, leadership mentor. Coach Williams is an adjunct research professor in the Department of Educational Leadership, Policy, and Human Development at North Carolina State University, where her teaching focus is technology and leadership. That is a mouthful. And I would like for you to maybe speak more, add a little bit more to your bio. I think that just touched the outline of your titles, but talk to us more, and then I'm going to let you have the platform.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you. And thank you, Monica. And thank you for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. It's really a pleasure. And as Monica says, my name is Sandra Wall Williams, and I am retired, actually, I own my own company, but I retired as the Senior Vice President and Chief of Technology for the North Carolina Community College System. Many people don't know, but North Carolina has the third largest community college system in the world. And there are 58 community colleges across the state. And so being in charge of all the technology, all the resources, distance learning, all of the components that literally make colleges work was my responsibility. I really love that. But I got to a point where I knew that it was time for me to step out and do what I love doing and work with people that I love working with. Not that I didn't love working with them, but I really wanted to do more of what I wanted to do, basically. So I actually began to look at what were the things that I really enjoy doing. You know, a lot of people talk about purpose. They talk about, walking in their purpose, walking in their calling. And I wanted to do all that. But the question became, what are the things that I really enjoy doing? And what I love doing more than anything else is to mentor women to help them to get to their next level of success. And that level of success, of course, is relative, depends on the person that I'm working with. But what I found was that my area of specialty was either in technology, because I was a technology leader, was either in education, in ministry, or in some form or fashion of career. And so when I retired from community colleges about almost 5 years ago now, I started my own company, which is WMS Corporation, where we focus on working with emerging or established women leaders to help them get to their next level of success. And the areas that we focus, of course, are in your career or in your ministry. And so what I'm going to do today is, and I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully I can do this correctly here. All right. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work. Okay, you know what? I don't think I'm going to be able to share my screen. So I'm not able to share it, not able to see it the way I want to see it. So I'm just going to go ahead with the presentation. So what I want to do today is to talk about 5 keys to monetize your mentorship. Because one of the things that I am very good at and that I love doing, again, is working with women and helping them to get to their next level of success. And what I found was that so many people, not just women, but so many people that have gotten to certain levels in their career, they work and they help others to do the same thing. So, you have people that are in ministry, and what do? You mentor other ministers. You have people that are in business, and what do? You always mentor those who are in business also. You have people who are, who are like me, who are C-level leaders, and what do you always tend to do? You tend to mentor those who want to do or are doing the same thing you're doing, and they want to get to the level you are. So what I found is that I was mentoring a lot of people, and a lot of my colleagues were mentoring a lot of people. So the question became, how can we monetize this? How can we take what we know and not necessarily always turn it into a course or coaching or a book or something like that, which those things are great, but how do we actually begin to monetize that? And so that's what I want to talk about on today. Okay. Let me see, I'm going to try this one more time to go live. To share my screen one more time. And I think I should be able to do this. Let's see. It's giving me an error message. So you know what? I'm going to just keep going. It's telling me, because I have Google Chrome, I guess it's telling me that I can't do it. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep going with the presentation, because I've got some really, really good content with you for you today. So I really want you to make sure that you get this content and are you able to use it. So if you don't have pencil and paper, please take a few minutes to go get take a second really to go get pencil and paper, because you won't be able to take screenshots since I can't share my screen. All right, so go get some pencil and paper so you can take some notes on what I'm about to say. So those of you that are business owners, and more than likely everybody that's watching this, you're either a business owner or you aspire to be a business owner. For those of you that are in ministry, some of you are in ministry full-time, some of you are dual profession. You have dual professions, meaning that you do ministry and you do a business on the side or something like that, or you work full-time and you do ministry part-time. Some of you may be authors, some of you may be thought leaders, some of you may be influencers. Whatever it is, what I want to share with you today is how you can add, or the keys that you need to add a mentorship program to what it is you do. I was just listening to the gentleman who was on the stage before me, and I thought he has so much great information about nonprofits and about what nonprofits should do. And literally what he was giving you was a lot of mentoring right there. It was a lot of great content and a lot of mentoring. And so basically you could package that information, and there are people that are around the world that need that, not just the people you know. So I really want you to understand today a couple of things. 3 things I'm going to give you today is, number 1, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my corporation and what we do. Number 2, I'm going to tell you about why should you pay for a mentor? Why should you pay for a mentor? That's very important. I want to give you the qualifications. Number 3, the qualifications of a paid mentor, because there are paid mentors and there are people who don't get paid. So I want to make sure you understand the difference between the two. And then I'm going to end up with the 5 keys to monetize your mentorship. And if there are any questions, then please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and I'd be glad to answer them. So a little bit more about me. Again, thank you, Monica, for that great introduction. But I am an award-winning leadership coach, mentor, and educational and government leader. I'm experienced. I have all different kinds of certifications and that sort of thing. And because I'm an educator, I believe in having certifications. I believe that if you're going to do something, that you should have the credentials to be able to go with it. I am a full-time CEO for my company, which is a professional development company for women. I'm also in ministry. I am a ministry founder. The ministry is called Teach, Train, and Equip for Active Christ-like Holiness. I do a lot of speaking, more online, of course, mostly online now, but a lot of speaking in churches, corporations bring me in to speak, colleges, conferences. As it was said earlier, I am on corporate boards. I sit on corporate boards. Those are boards that people pay you to sit on. I sit on education boards and nonprofit. And I am the founder of Vision Building Women, which is an online community in Facebook. It's called Vision Building Women, and it's a community where the women there we're helping them to work towards moving forward and pushing them into their vision. So the Vision Building, or my company, is the Vision Building Institute, which is a division of the overall company, focuses in 3 areas. We focus in individualized teaching, leadership coaching, and executive coaching. So when people come to me for help, normally